Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to try to arrange my camera here a little bit better. Sorry for starting a few minutes late, trying to get the camera together, and it's still giving me challenges. But I'm excited for those of you who are joining. Last week, I started kind of this nighttime live stream series because honestly, this is when my energy is really, really good. My energy is really high. And again, I make live streams for the people who are probably staying up at night, worrying about where their career is going and worry about their next career opportunity. I'm just really excited to be here. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. If you can't hear me, let me know. So I'm not here talking to myself. But I want to hop in tonight to have this conversation, and I got to lead with a little bit of a rant. I've got to lead with a little bit of a rant, but just hang in there with me because it's going to tie into the conversation we're having tonight. But if you are watching live, especially on LinkedIn, please do go ahead and drop a comment. I'm excited to see you here and keep the conversation going. But here's my rant to get us started. So I've been a career coach for a really long time. So I started helping people back in 2006. It's 2024, so you can kind of do the math on how long I have been in this game. And for a good portion of that time, I shared a lot of mechanical and tactical information. And from time to time, I still do. So how to write a resume, how to get prepared for an interview. I still share some of that content. And for a long time, that was the bulk of what I did. But what I realized over time, especially as I continue to coach people at different levels of their careers, different experiences, it's not the mechanical or tactical information that a lot of people need. That's not the case, especially in an age now with Google and YouTube and ChatGPT. You can get insight as to what should I put on my resume. You can get insight as to what questions to ask in an interview. But I create these live streams for us to step beyond those mechanics. And, just to provide some insight about me, the fact is the work I do as a coach is not just about helping the folks who are watching to get a job. That's not what it's about, or just getting a promotion. It's about helping you to transform and elevate your life. You spend about a third of your life at work. And so if it's just about getting a job, any job, that's too small of a thing for you to commit that much time to. So it's really about the transformation for people and helping them to design their own success, taking the power back in their hands and driving their own careers forward so that you know that you're able to achieve the goals that you have for yourself and for your life. And then also considering the people that are in your circles, your family members, your friends, your community. It's about creating better lives. It's not just about getting a job. And so if you've watched like my live streams, especially the individual ones, you're just like, man, Julie's getting a little woo woo with some of this stuff. It's because the mechanics is kind of the last step. Your mindset, your goals, your approach, that determines how you show up in the mechanics. So if you're not clear on what you want from a career perspective, that's going to show up in a very confused resume. That's going to show up in a very timid interview. It's going to show up in your salary negotiations, because if you don't know what you want, if you're not confident, if you're okay being stuck, when you have these conversations at that level, it's going to show up. So yes, I can tell you to feel free to apply for this job and quote $90,000 as a salary. But if you're not confident that you can make that kind of money, if you're not confident about the kind of value that you can create in an organization, if you're not clear on what your own values are, none of the mechanics matter. And so I wanted to lead with that, just for those who may be following the live streams and like, man, I'm looking for the tips, Julie. I'm looking for the tips. What do I need to do from a career perspective or a job search perspective? That's the last step for a coach like me. I can give you the mechanics, but it's about you transforming your life and your career. So with that, I want to go into tonight's conversation. Just had to get that off my chest. So I appreciate y'all holding the space for me. for me to get that off my chest, because it's just something I've been thinking about, especially some feedback that I've received as well. So for tonight's conversation, talking about, are you willing to fail yourself? This stems from a conversation I had with my own coach, who works with me on business development and corporate clients. And we were having this conversation about how people are willing to show up at work versus how they're willing to show up for themselves. So I'll give you an example. When you're at work and you get difficult feedback, when your boss says, hey, you're not cutting it right now. It seems like your work is slacking. I don't have a good feeling about where this is going. We find a way to get ourselves in gear. We find a way to get ourselves in gear. We talk to other people. We're willing to get another certification. We're willing to stay late. Or even if we decide to leave the job, we're willing to get ourselves in gear to get out of that situation and to make sure that our bosses are thinking highly of us. And it's partially because we're afraid of the consequences. If your boss is not happy with your performance, what's likely to happen is that you probably may get fired, or you get switched to a role that is no longer a fit, that, there's some consequences that are a result of you not performing well at work. And we're afraid of those. So as soon as we hear feedback, we are trying to figure it out. We are willing to do what it takes. But when it comes to our own careers, we're willing to fail ourselves. We're willing to fail ourselves. And what I mean by that is we don't have the same sense of urgency when it comes to our own careers. So we will sit in a situation where we're not being treated well, where our skills are undervalued, where we don't even see an opportunity for promotion or career growth in front of us. We're willing to stay there. Why? Why don't we have that same sense of urgency? Why do we have a higher sense of commitment to an organization than we do to ourselves? Why do we think the consequences are higher at work than they are to ourselves? Sure, we don't want to lose our jobs. Nobody does. But here's the thing to think about. Even if you're not getting immediate feedback at work about your performance being poor or what have you, you're not on a PIP, even if that's not where you're at right now, if you're showing up less than because you're being mistreated, you're doing work that feels boring or it's not aligned or misaligned in some way, if that's where you're at, it's going to start to materialize itself in your performance, and you may not get the opportunities you're looking for anyway. So even as you're staying in if you're staying in that position and you haven't gotten immediate feedback yet, if you're staying in a place where you feel stuck, where you feel undervalued, where you feel stressed, burnt out, overwhelmed, annoyed, if you're staying in a place like that, what do you think happens to your performance over time? What do you think happens to your relationships over time? What happens to the network that maybe was invested in you and your growth and your development? What happens to those folks when they see that you're staying in this place and you're apathetic towards your work? You're just showing up, you're clocking in and you're clocking out. You're not really reaching out anymore. You're not bringing new ideas. All of that ends up showing up in your performance anyway. And so you may still end up with a delayed reaction to those changes. And then let's think about the emotional toll on yourself, the emotional toll, the physical toll. Every day you're dragging yourself into a situation, knowing that there are options for you to move out of that situation. Perhaps getting another job, moving to another department, going back to school, whatever it is, there are options for you. But every day you stay in the same place. You have that emotional toll, you have that physical toll. And then it's not just about you. It's not just about you. The people who are in the spaces that you're in, the people that you say that you care about, your spouse, your significant other, your kids, your parents, your friends, your community that you're serving. If you are staying in a place that is keeping you stuck, that is keeping you unhappy, that doesn't just impact you, it impacts the people that you say that you care about. And so just going back to the organizational example, so many of us are willing to do whatever the organization tells us because it's like, man, I gotta feed these kids, I gotta take care of my spouse, I gotta take care of my sick parent, I've got to do the work. Thank you so much, Nina, for letting me know that you can hear me well. Really appreciate it. But so we're willing to stay with an organization and do whatever they tell us because we don't want to disappoint the family members, and we know that we have business to take care of at home. We're willing to do whatever it takes to take care of that business. Why do we not have that same energy? Why are we not keeping that same energy, as the kids would say? Why are we not keeping that same energy for ourselves? Why are we not holding ourselves to those kinds of standards to say, I'm not comfortable subjecting my family to this lesser version of me? Because I will tell you, when I was dealing with trauma at work and I was depressed, I was useless to my family. My parents would call me and want to check in, and I had no energy to speak to them. I had no energy to speak to them. And these are my parents, they're in their 70s. Anything could happen to them at any moment. But because I was in a bad situation, I didn't have energy to speak to them. And that's just one example. So when you think about where you are and how you view yourself and what's important to you, why are you okay with staying in this cycle? And someone would say, well, Julia, I'm afraid. I don't know what's out there. Sure, you don't know what's out there, but there's a likelihood that it's better out there. If you stay where you are, it's 100% sure that it's bad. If you're sitting in a toxic situation right now, there's no ambiguity as to how bad it is. You're in it, you're there right now. But if you think about moving on or getting into another department, whatever the movement or career transition looks like for you, there's still a 50-50 chance that things can improve for you. I don't think those odds are that bad versus the 100% of staying stuck and being unhappy. The other thing that I want to mention is when you're staying in those situations where you're staying stuck, for example, you're probably not earning at the level that you should. Why? Because your performance is probably not where it needs to be. Let's just be honest. Your performance is probably not where it needs to be in order for you to get that promotion, because you may feel like, hey, I've asked for a promotion, I've talked to somebody, I've asked my mentors, and nothing is happening for me. So I'm just going to give up. I'm a clock in and I'm a clock out. You can do that, but now what is the likelihood that you're going to get a bigger pay raise? What is the likelihood of you getting the incentive package? What is the likelihood of more coins coming into your pocket when you're operating from a place of, I'm just giving up, I'm just going to stay here, I'm just going to let it do what it do? And so even if it's purely money driven, if you're like, Julia, I don't care about none of that other woo-woo stuff that you're saying, it's about the coins. Cool. How likely is it for your salary to increase if you're operating in an environment where you're not being treated well and they're not even giving you the opportunities where you're maximizing your skill set and you can showcase more value? When I was getting promotions at work, it's because of the value that I was providing in some way or another, whether it was technical expertise, leadership, strategy, whatever it was. I was moving forward at work because I was demonstrating value. And if you are in an organization that's not even seeing your value, or you're not in a role where you can even demonstrate that effectively, what is the likelihood for you to move up and make the kind of money that you say that you want to make? And so I just wanted to bring this to the forefront tonight because I've had some conversations over the past few weeks. And then, like I said, the conversation I had with my coach today, and it's just like, man, we are willing to put our shoulders to the wheel for an organization and do all the things so that we don't get fired, so that we can get the opportunities. We have a sense of urgency. We have fire under our tails to do what it takes at work. But when it comes to ourselves, we are willing to sit there. We're willing to keep thinking about, well, should I move? Should I hire a coach? Should I hire a resume writer? Should I? We were willing to sit there for months, for years. We're willing to put that toll on ourselves where we would never do that for an employer. The question is, why are we not more worth it to ourselves versus an organization? And so with that, I want to just encourage you. I want to admonish you. I want to recommend to you whatever word we want to throw in here, that you should be more worth it to yourself than anything you would do for an organization. So if you have made the decision thus far that you are going to continue to sit where you're at because I'm afraid of what's out there. Suppose my resume doesn't get picked up. Suppose I get rejected. If you're sitting there because of all of that energy, think about what you're giving up. Think about the money you're potentially giving up. Think about the relationship with your spouse and your kids that is impacted because of that fear, because you don't have that same sense of urgency. I would encourage you to think about that. You are more worth it. Anything an organization can do for you, you can always do more for yourself. And I also just want to recommend to y'all right now. So it's at the end of August, the time for hiring, this is like the third hiring season for the year. Now that the summer is over, September and October are big hiring months. So this is pretty timely messaging. So if you've been sitting here like, I don't know if I want to apply, I don't know if I want to move around, this is actually a great time of year for you to actually see what's out there, because folks are back from the summer vacations and the slowdown, and now people are energized and ready to hire again. And they want to get that done before the holidays that come in November and December. So if you're thinking about looking, now is the time to actually kind of get on that grind. Especially if you've been putting it on pause. And so with that, I just want to leave you again with the words that I always say. You are the CEO of your career. You are the CEO of your career. You are the one who is steering the ship. And so you have to be worth it. You have to see enough value in yourself to say, I'm not willing to pay this high price anymore. I'm not willing to stay stuck. I'm going to have the fire under my tail that I'm not going to keep being mistreated at work. I'm not going to keep being in a toxic environment. I'm not going to keep getting put in positions that I know are below my skill level. I'm willing to do and be more. And if it means I have to step out of my comfort zone, so be it. But my goals and my self-worth and my self-esteem should mean more to me than staying in this uncomfortable position at work. Because if you're willing to do it for them, if they were willing to fire you, you would figure out what to do. So why are you willing to fail yourself and stay stuck? And so with that one, I just want to wrap up. I wanted to mention that my Elevate program, the 12-week coaching program for finance and accounting professionals, the doors closed for that program on September 1st over the weekend. So you still have time to get your slot. So you can comment Elevate on whatever platform you're watching on, or you can send me a DM with the word Elevate and let's have that conversation. If group coaching is not your jam, you're like, this is not my ministry, I prefer one-on-one, I offer one-on-one coaching options. So please feel free. Again, you can still drop the word Elevate and we can discuss your needs through a consult. But I want to say thank you for giving me your time this evening, the 18 minutes and 52 seconds we took to talk through this. But I share these things because I'm passionate about seeing you have sustained success. It's not just about getting a job. It's not just about hitting six figures. You can do that. But what happens after that? What happens once you get in the door? If you're feeling crappy, if you feel like your career is not being managed, if you feel like there's no room for growth, if you go home every day and you're like, this sucks, it's not worth it. And so I do these live streams to share with you, to step beyond just getting the job, but having a life, having a career, something that you can personally be proud of, knowing that you're living a life that's aligned with your own values and vision of success. And so with that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow night, possibly at an earlier hour, my normal career climb slot at 6 p.m. Central. So please feel free to join me. If you have questions, if I didn't get to it in tonight's conversation, you can DM me or comment on the replay, and I'll be sure to respond to that. Thank you guys, and have an amazing evening.